the modern motion picture industry has been dominated by the US and Europe. Taiwan's film industry has developed a bit slower. In that context, the director Ang Lee, who successfully broke into Hollywood and whose films have been roundly praised, is truly the pride of Taiwan. In this first installment of a three-part report, we meet one of Taiwan's greatest artists and tell his story from the very beginning. Our Sunday special report.
When the KMT retreated to Taiwan in 1949, former Education Ministry Secretary Lee Sheng and his wife Yang Si-chuang were among the refugees and became high school teachers in Chaozhou, Pingtung. Their first son, Ang Lee, was born 5 years later on October the 23rd, 1954. His name Ang was chosen to commemorate the ship Yun'an, which brought them to Taiwan, as well as their ancestral home De'an in Jiangxi, China. When Lee was a toddler, his father was appointed the head of Hualien Normal College. The family moved to Hualien and stayed there 8 years.
As far as I'm concerned, my upbringing began in Hualien. My earliest memories are from Hualien. It was a simple, earthy time. The environment around me was full of people who were recent immigrants from China, lots of soldiers, civil servants, and teachers. I received an experimental US-style education. It was quite sophisticated for Taiwan at that time.
The lush landscapes of Hualien and the inspiring education at the Normal College Elementary School provided a backdrop for a happy childhood. When Lee was in 4th grade, aged 10, his father was reposted, becoming principal of Tainan Second Senior High School. The family relocated to Tainan. Lee was now in a city of history and culture. He was also introduced to exam factory education, corporal punishment, and relentless tests.
I think it was a math exam. Everyone who had gotten a certain question wrong had to line up on their knees outside the classroom, and the teacher went along boxing their ears. A slap for each question wrong. The first time I was beaten, it felt like the world was ending.
Lee was a slow bloomer, quiet and introverted. He often suffered corporal punishment because of imperfect math scores, but he excelled in Chinese language classes and became a different person on the stage, frequently triumphing in Chinese competitions. He was even elected children's mayor.
I heard from his mother that Lee used to perform as a child. In elementary school, he wrote theater plays, directed plays, and even played the lead. He led his classmates in putting the play on.
He was quiet, gentle, moderate, not naughty, paid attention in class. He knew how to persevere. He wasn't a cheeky troublemaker.
In the 1960s, junior high admissions required an entrance exam. Lee was stronger in humanities than sciences. He got into Yanping Junior High, his second choice, and then Tainan First Senior High, his first choice. But the joy at getting into the top school was quickly replaced by stress and pressure. The school principal was his father. His father's example and the eyes of onlookers felt oppressive for the young and shy Lee.
I avoided him at school. I'd take the long way if I saw him coming. Should I call him dad or principal or make a formal greeting? I didn't know how to act.
He was very well behaved then. His classmate, Tang Guoding, and I used to fold our school hats into wing shapes. Lee never dared to fold his hat. He feared his father's scolding. He was a good little boy.
Lee Sheng had high hopes for Lee to excel at school and follow in his own career footsteps. The school itself was highly competitive. It was hard for Lee to meet his father's standards.
I was the oldest son, and in traditional Chinese upper-class families, as well as Taiwanese families in the Japanese colonial period, you were meant to study. Good grades were the thing.
导演在一种
I think that Lee had two sources of stress during high school. One was his dad being the principal, which meant he wanted to do well. The second was it was a science-oriented school. He told me once that during school exams, his palms would start to sweat, cold sweat, as soon as he read on the paper the words Tainan First Senior High Science Exam. So I think it was very stressful.
But this stress led to the opportunity that propelled Lee towards film. Whenever he felt sad, Lee would hide from the world by watching Western films at a dollar theatre. Movies became a psycho-spiritual refuge, and cinema arts began to subtly influence him.
I saw one movie each weekend, more or less. Normally I had to attend cram school, so I didn't have much time. And there was summer vacation. I watched movies during vacation. In those days, there weren't as many ways to have fun as there are now. Watching films was my only real nourishment on a spiritual level as well as entertainment.
At the end of high school, Lee's grades didn't put him in the top 15% of students who got into college. The first year he missed the grade by 6 marks. The second year he scored just 0.67 in math, missing the college grade by 1 mark. He couldn't seem to catch a lucky break. His failure to get into college 2 years in a row was a devastating setback.
当然大，他爸爸是南一中校长啊。
Of course, it was a blow. His dad was the first senior high principal. Were Lee's grades that bad? No, not much worse than anybody's. His general performance at high school would make you think he'd definitely get into college, but he couldn't pass the exams.
到第二次考完，当然就更世界末日，他就不见了。
The second time was even worse, of course. He disappeared. I rode my bike over an hour to the seaside at Qunshen and found him there. He was there. The sun was setting. He walked home, back to the sunset. There was nothing I could say, but we went home together.
In the end, Lee enrolled in the National Arts School in the directing class of the Film and Theatre faculty. It wasn't ideal, but at least the class suited his interests. However, his parents, with their backgrounds in the scholar official class, were very disappointed.
一方面，我们家还是那个士大夫的家庭。
Ours was a scholar official family, and they say, all work is lowly, only studies bring glory. But my dad was very enlightened. When the whistle blew, no matter how reluctant he had felt, in the end, if you decided something, he would support you. That's how our family was.
Filmmaking opened up a new world for Lee. In his first year at college, he played the lead for the first time in a play directed by a classmate. Lee found himself on stage.
那个时候18岁，是演一个舞台剧。
I was 18 and I was in a play. The first time I got up onto the stage, I didn't realize it during rehearsals, but on the first night of performances, I knew it straight away. It changed my life. I realized that my life was over there. It belonged to the stage.
That play was just the first of many, wherein the quiet, reserved Lee would trip the boards. He acted in at least 15 stage plays during his 3 years of college. In 1974, he won Best Lead Actor in the college's theatre department. This was also when he started writing and directing.
李安
When Lee was at school, he looked pretty much how he does now. He was a young oldster at school. We called him Little Oldster. He was so polite and civilized. He played all the good guy roles.
同时呢，他也自编自导，所以在这一块呢，所以
He wrote and directed his own plays too, so he also impressed us in that area.
Alongside his theatre, Lee got serious about films, learning how to appreciate and critique them seriously. More importantly, he started making them, handling lighting, scripts, art direction and camera work.
他为了要这个能够在摄影方面增加他的美感，他就跟朋友去学美术。
To improve his aesthetics for cinematography, he learned about art from his friends. He wrote scripts, acted, directed. When we lit our films, he paid attention. He arranged the lighting himself.
有很多的技术上的东西、学科上的东西是到美国才真的学得比较深。
There's a lot of stuff, technical and academic stuff, that I only really learned properly in the US. But I think I found a space that inspired me at the National Arts School. That was really special in those days.
Lee graduated from the National Art School in 1975. His father still hoped he would go into academia. He urged him to go abroad for further study after completing his national service and to aim for a career as a theatre arts professor. At the age of 25, Lee got into the directing course at the University of Illinois Theatre Department. 2 years later, he continued his directing studies at Tisch School of the Arts at New York University. He completed 5 films as a student at NYU. They won him scholarships, as well as the honour of first place in his Master of Arts class. At 31, his world was his oyster.
是他在拍学生作品的时候就已经非常被看好了。
He was already very highly rated as a student filmmaker. When his student films were shown publicly at NYU, he got a contract with an agent.
The rising star signed on with an agent and waited for opportunity to come knocking. To his surprise, it was a long wait of 6 years.